Welcome back. Well, yes, continuing with politics. And now we've got Mr. Peter Obi, former vice presidential candidate of the PDP. He joins us via Zoom today. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Well, I don't know how much of what you heard about the previous guests who have different perspectives. Some did allude to they say, look, our political system is largely dysfunctional. Something needs to change. The political structure, the politics is transactional in nature, and even the polity needs some fundamental changes. So could you start by telling us what your impression is, first, about the political system or structure that we operate in the country?
Well, Chamberlain, can you hear me very well?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Well, let me say that I agree entirely with Jibrin in his position. The politics as it is today is very, very transactional and lack the essences or the qualities you can use to define democracy as government of the people, by people, for the people. I agree entirely with him. There's need for us as a nation to decide to practice genuine democracy, or at least some semblance of it, which is not there today. But where I differ a little bit with Jibrin is that it is not just the political class, but the people as well. The people need to be part of this change, because what you see happening here in Nigeria has a lot to do with what I call the complacency of the people. The people think you can leave this in hands of the politicians, but this is what affects them. So they have to demand that the right things happen.
How? Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say that a lot of the times the people are just watching. They're trying to live their lives. They're trying to go work day to day. Essentially, they're trying to, I think, more or less survive on a daily basis. So putting this responsibility on them, what do you expect from the people, really?
Well, this affects them directly. This affects them directly because the actions of the politicians, the actions of we, the politicians, affects them. It is about them. So if you have a situation where somebody's action or what is going to do while in office will affect you, you should be committed that ensuring that the right things, first, that the right people are voted into office. As you can see, what is happening in our country today is because we have the wrong people in office. We have people who are incompetent. We have people who lack capacity. And that is why we have become what we are today. If you look at every day we shout about being the poverty capital of the world, it is because we have incompetent leadership. And the only way to deal with it is that the people who are directly affected listen and do the right thing by ensuring that the right people who are competent, who have the capacity, who have what it takes to turn this place around, are voted into office. Examples you've seen me do so many times referring to what is happening. Look at our country, what is happening now. All the reports you see on December 22nd, you saw the financial Times editorial saying we are becoming a failed state. And when you look at indices of what a failed state is, you will agree with them because we seems to be running out of control. We are kidnapping of all sorts is that happening all over the country. We're talking about what happened in Katsina. Look at what happened in Imonan, where a Cali bishop is kidnapped in the heart of a Christian state. So you can go on and on. You have a situation where the World Bank report this year, all the reports have shown that we're becoming physically unviable. And you could see it yourself happening everywhere. We become the highest in drug prevalence, 14.8% against the average of 5%. We've overtaken India as under 5 mortality. You can go on and on. So it's affecting the people. So the people must sit up and say, how do we start reversing this trend? And you can only do it by competent leadership that have the capacity to deal with the situation.
But that's another question, getting competent leadership. Isn't there an avenue where politicians can advise each other? And this is looking at the best interests of the nation and everyone in it.
Come again.
Isn't there an avenue where politicians can advise each other in the best interest of the nation?
No, it is impossible when you have people who are engaged in transactional, politics. When everybody is about sharing, there's no avenue of production. As you can see, our country is not productive. That is why our economy is not growing. Everybody is about sharing. Nobody is creating wealth. Nobody is creating anything. That is why we have a system that is not growing. While other nations are working hard to pull itself out of poverty by growing the economy, ours is going the other way around. So there's no way you can have, when people are sharing, they don't have the time to think about production, about advising each other. Because it is, like Jibrin says, everybody is selfishly involved as what am I going to grab out of this system? But I still continue to blame the people who watch the sharing go on and participate in it and are celebrating the criminality. Go around all over the place now. The people are hailing. The people are calling good names, giving good places, even in place of worship and everything, are those who are stealing more money. They're the ones being celebrated and given all sorts of awards and all sorts of chieftain titles and everything.
So some of what you suggested, the changes that can happen given our structure, happens every 4 years. So does that then suggest that in the meantime, until that time, there will be nothing the people can do?
Chamberlain, if people know that in 4 years, they will be changed because they're doing the wrong thing, they will be able to do the right thing while in office. But because I know that if I steal money and share it to the people after 4 years, they will still keep me in office, I will continue to do it. Chamberlain, look at a very simple example. When I talk, people say about China, about this. If you look at what has happened, say, in Vietnam today, we started this so-called as present Third Republic in year 1999. Within that period, from year 2000 to year 2018, Vietnam have pulled over 50 million people out of poverty. They have maintained an economic growth of above 6%, about 7%, while their population was growing at 1%. Our own situation, so they have 6% gap. Because of that now, even in this COVID situation, they are not one of the countries that have fallen into recession because they have an economy that has been on growth for over 20 years. While in our own case, within this period, by 2018, we've overtaken India as poverty capital of the world, in a situation where we have now more people living under poverty than India and China combined. And for the World Bank report, about 11 million is going to be thrown into this after this recession, and we're not talking about it. So for me, we need now to resolve that all the coming elections, only competent and those with capacity will be elected. And if people know that is going to happen, some of them will start changing.
Oh, just wondering, I mean, you've held these views of yours for a while now, and then you've also been a governor for 8 years. You've held several other positions. One wonders...
Can I hear you, Chamberlain?
Yeah, can you hear me now? It appears as though you might need to unmute if you mistakenly muted it. Can you hear me now? Oh dear, it looks as if it's frozen on us as well. Okay, so I think we'll see how we can start that. I'll just
But he's also launching us into our next segment, and that's talking about the economy.
Yeah, so there you go. We'll be back in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. It's our concluding moment with Mr. Peter Obi. Well, I was going to ask you, having been in leadership position previously, and you've also held these views of yours for a while now, but how much of discipleship or how many disciples have you made of these views such that we can have such people also occupy positions of leadership as you did?
Well, Chamberlain, the only thing you can do is to continue preaching and pleading with people that we're on a wrong trajectory. Where we are today, we are traveling on the wrong direction. We're not going to be led out of our problems if we continue in the direction. Our compass is not pointing to the right direction. So it is important that the people understand that unless we do the right things, nobody, tomorrow success will only be achieved by today's sacrifice. If we don't sacrifice and do the right thing, if we continue to build a government based on consumption, sharing and consumption, where people think that you can continue to borrow and consume and think that tomorrow one magic will happen, it will not work. All we're going to do is to throw more and more people into poverty. And the consequence is that you could see it, our economy is not growing. To match the population growth, things are getting worse. If you look at it, just simple thing today. So mine is to preach, is to beg people to understand we need to do the right things. We need to create opportunities for job so we can be able to have people employed, grow our economy. What makes a country is growth of the economy. And that's why you see all the groupings, whether it's G7, G10, G14, whatever they call them, G20, is by economy. And that is very simple. Have a country that is secured. We're talking about inflation, fighting food inflation now. If we have security, people will go back to the farm. The same thing happens if we focus on ensuring that we support SMEs to grow the economy, we create jobs. I was talking to somebody yesterday who told me that only 20 million Nigerians pay tax. I said, because you have 100 million that is living under poverty. Ideally, in an economy, a population of 200 million, Chamberlain, 100 to 120 million is supposed to be active and productive. And with that, you have at least 60 million paying tax. And it is not a rocket science. You could see it. China, with a population of 1.4 billion, have 850 million people employed and productive. That's 60%. Indonesia, with 250 million, have about 140, 150 million employed. That's a simple deduction that you have 200 million, so you need about 100 to 120 million to be productive. And if you have that, 20 million people that are paying tax today will probably triple to 60 million. You get more revenue.
Well, that
every day.
That takes us into, well, we have to thank you very much indeed, Mr. Peter Obi, former vice presidential candidate of the PDP. So, Millie, that takes us to the economy.